Chief Judge, are we ready? Can we please ask the first speaker for team proposition to take their position on stage, please?
Self-evaluation plays an important role in the overall development of an individual. It believes on the classic case of judging oneself before being judged by the world. In the course of our lives, we are evaluated by a lot of people, from teachers to employers, and sometimes we may feel that we did not get a fair share or the judgment was biased. But when we evaluate oneself, there is no scope for any bias, and there may be some new aspects of our personality that we may not have been yet acquainted with. Being self-critical and second-guessing yourself is a good thing. People who are self-critical are always seeking ways to improve. Self-critical people are self-aware. They know exactly where they need to improve, which is crucial to continue growing and developing in your career. Being self-critical isn't about defining one way or the perfect way. It's about learning all of the options available to you, so you don't only default to one way of thinking. Being self-critical ensures that your ego never runs away with you. Having 10 promotions over 11 years might make a normal person's head swollen. But being self-critical prevents that from happening. Continuously questioning your processes keeps you from developing an ego. This is why companies have a 360-degree feedback. People that are self-critical may think things through several times. Being self-critical means answering the potential questions that may arise. This leads to being over-prepared when presenting work, and being over-prepared is certainly better than being under-prepared. Do you know what being constantly judged by others can do to you? In India, every hour one student commits suicide. India has the highest suicide rates for youths aged 15 to 29. This is according to a report by the National Crime Bureau. And you know why? It's painfully obvious. People are killing themselves because they're afraid of failing their exams. Get 99 out of 100 and you're a success. Get 60 out of 100 and you're a failure. It does not matter whether you're artistic, a musician, or anything else. You're consistently judged by society standards. There are ultra-successful people all over the world that were failures by society standards but became winners because of their ability to self-evaluate. Mark Zuckerberg was a dropout. Bill Gates was a dropout. Abraham Lincoln failed in business in 1831, suffered a nervous breakdown in 1836. He was no stranger to failure and rejection. Instead of listening to others and surrendering, he was self-critical and refused to stop trying his best. What good did listening to others and external feedback do to our country or the suicide rates? It murdered half of our youth. Other people evaluating you and judging you can negatively damage your self-worth. But if you are self-critical, secure in yourself, and know your worth, other people's judgment does not matter and never will. Look at social media. Teens and adolescents are now getting more depressed than ever. My friend got only 200 likes and I got only 150. How does that even matter? What's wrong with them? Why so much importance on external stimuli? The most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. Thank you.
Toastmasters, respected judges, guests, my worthy opponents, evaluators, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My team and I, we do not believe in the statement that says critical self-evaluation is more effective than an evaluation by another person. Well, if that was the case, then I've probably got it all wrong. The problem with the word evaluation is this: it has to be effective, isn't it? And how does it become effective? It needs to be unbiased. It needs to be honest. It needs to be neutral. Whereas human beings are capable of doing a lot of things, but one thing we cannot do very effectively is take a look at ourselves and find out what we are really good at, not so good at, areas of improvement. That has to come from another person, and that's just the fact of life. And it's not just my personal opinion. There is scientific evidence. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winning psychologist and economist, in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he talks about hundreds of scientific experiments he has conducted with human beings, and conclusively has proven that we have a problem. The self, me, us. We always go after confirming evidence. You know what that simply means? If I think I'm weak, my mind is going to figure out some way to tell me that you're right, you're weak. If I think I'm perfect, my mind is going to figure out some way to tell me, oh, you're beautiful, you're perfect. We need somebody else to turn the mirror around, put it against my face and tell me that, hey, you're not 100% correct. The other person's perspective. This is where it becomes objective. Evaluation needs to be objective. And it's possible when someone else tells us the truth. Because it's just not going to come from within me, how much ever enlightened I am. Here's another problem we have. The human being, see, look at, for example, look at me. I cannot perform and evaluate at the same time. I'm speaking to you right now, isn't it? Maybe I'm performing. And there's one person in this room right now who cannot watch me speaking. Who is that? Thank you. So this has to happen from someone else's perspective. I cannot see myself. I cannot evaluate 100% effectively what I'm doing at this moment. That has to come from somebody sitting out there, which is why after every session on the stage, I'm going to walk out to my mentor, my evaluator, and that person would tell me, hey, this is what you did well. This is where you have scope for improvement, and this is how you could do it better. And that is how we all get better in life. We ask others, we get feedback. And look at all these people, all the successful people, look at all amongst in this audience. If you were to stand here and do a testimony of what you have achieved, every single story would have a testimony, a tribute to somebody who helped you really well. My worthy opponents will do exactly the same thing. When they walk out on the stage, they're going to come back to some of you and ask, hey, did I do well? Where did I go wrong? Because they are also evaluators. That is my case.
Respected judges, my honorable opponents, fellow Toastmasters, brothers and sisters, good evening to you all. Good evening. Critical self-evaluation. Think for a minute. It sounds like an oxymoron. Deafening silence. And our worthy opponents goes on talking, I'm going to be over-prepared. I'm going to be over-prepared for what? How? What? And when? Because the word evaluation means valuing something. And value is not done by oneself. There is no self-value. There is only value by a group of people, a tribe, a nation, a set of professionals. So I need to submit myself to those values to live up to it. So how can I value myself? And then we go on to get to the best idea a debater can ever come into play with you. Scary. Half of Indians are dead. 50%, half of the youth are dying because of exam fevers in India and depressions. And how do we get this idea? We take a single case and make it a generic example and speak against the base rate. Let's take an example from India itself. Who has been the best ever archery hero of Indian history? Arjuna. I don't think he did it all by himself. He had a master who would have never won Arjuna, but he was the one who told him what's wrong. He was the one who evaluated him. Evaluation comes in a critical, wrong manner, as explained by our worthy opponent, from social media. Well, we have to think about what am I going to be evaluated on? Bill Gates was a dropout, and therefore, well, he was evaluated in a school set of ideas and principles. He was measured, he was a dropout, but he was a great success in life, evaluated by I, you, and millions of others in this world. There cannot be a generic example to win. And that is where my worthy opponent comes and tells you, we need to have a 360 degree of evaluation. How? Self. Let me repeat at the cost of repetition. That's an oxymoron. I can see everything around me. My eyes can see everything. But unfortunately, eyes cannot see itself. We need this evaluation by others to correct ourselves, to set ourselves. I think we haven't heard of this idea of having a black box, a cam, a listening device, of people who have been trained and were supposed to be self-evaluated, but we need a third eye, a third person. I rest my case.
The most fundamental harm we can do ourselves is to remain ignorant by not honestly and critically evaluating ourselves. Critical self-evaluation is always more effective than evaluation by others. My opponent spoke that his mind tells him he is beautiful and he goes by that view. It is only when you critically evaluate yourself will you know your flaws and work on it. When I meet people, everybody compliments me for my looks, for my figure. But only when I critically evaluate myself, I know I have a big butt. I am hiding it in front of you. It's the black color which is hiding it. Had I rested on others' feedback, I wouldn't have done anything, just eaten my cakes, my pies and my vadas. My opponent said, you cannot see yourself. Excuse me, use a mirror. Critical self-evaluation is looking at the mirror. When you see a mirror, it doesn't turn green or red. It is for you to judge what aspects you are good at and what you need to work on. My opponent quoted Ralph C. Smedley in Toastmasters. Just because something is an age-old tradition doesn't mean it will work now also. Toastmasters has also come up with new pathways. Why? This is the very reason. Speech evaluation in Toastmasters till now is just 3 minutes evaluation. Whereas when you go home and critically evaluate yourself, you are thinking over and over again about what went wrong and how you can improve. Whereas in Toastmasters, when you evaluate someone or someone evaluates you, it is always a motivational evaluation because you want the speaker to come up. Biased. My opponent spoke about internal evaluation or self-evaluation always being biased. Who knows you better than yourself? I know myself better than anybody else, not only in this room, in this world. And I can vouch for that. When I evaluate myself, I am nothing but biased. Excuse me, we are talking about critical evaluation and I cannot be biased. Whereas when somebody externally evaluates me, they can be biased. The other person might want to lift me or might want to pull me down. You might want me to succeed and base your evaluation on that. Or you might want me to fail and base your evaluation on that. Critical self-evaluation always has, always will be Critical self-evaluation always was, always is, and always will be more effective than evaluation by others. I rest my case.
Summary speaker from team opposition on the stage, please.
The motivational speaker Andy Stanley once said, we do not become wiser with experience. We become wiser with evaluated experience. Our team believes that effective evaluation from others is of great value. Our opening point, the speaker pointed out why. For an evaluation to be effective, it has to be honest and unbiased. He said that the brain tends to believe that what it is thinking is right. For that, he brought in a substantiation from a Nobel laureate, Daniel Kahneman, who writes in Thinking Fast and Slow. He explained how he did hundreds of tests, and it was proved that man has the ability to justify oneself, that is, confirming ideas. So, if our brain tends to justify ourselves, how can our evaluation be effective? For this, to prove his point, he brought in another aspect. This is where others come into being as evaluators. Human beings can't perform and think at the same time. So we have from childhood, we have people who have been mentoring us, teaching us. He spoke about how winners have mentors. He spoke about how Toastmasters look forward to effective evaluations from others. Our rebuttal speaker pointed out how critical self-evaluation is in itself an oxymoron. It speaks against itself because ourself is full of bias. And the second point that he pointed out was that we tend to generalize and resort to scaremongering and say that 50% of the students in India are scared. That is not what effective evaluation from others is about. He brought in the example of Drona, who was the teacher to Arjuna, who went on to become the champion. And he also explained that social media is not within the precinct of what we are discussing today. We are effective. We are speaking about how others can help us evaluate ourselves effectively. He said that one cannot see oneself. Even a pilot needs something called a black box to sometimes to have a third eye on how things are taking place. Human beings are social beings. We thrive on feedback from each other. We help each other. We strengthen each other. That is how we function better. Thank you.
Team proposition on stage, please.
Nisha gave an example of the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? The mirror does not answer anymore. The truth, you look, you evaluate, you judge, and you decide how you look and how you feel. Wake up, grow up, ladies and gentlemen and morons. It's fairy tales are over, where you kiss frogs and still people tell you how and what you're supposed to do. Let me recap the benefits of critical self-evaluation which we discussed in the opening speech and rebuttal. 1, you always get better with self-evaluation. You always analyze your next steps and keep improving yourself. 2, you always think through every situation and therefore you always raise your bar and only keep prepared for more. 3, you listen to others, your teachers, your parents, your bosses, but then you yourself evaluate what went right, you introspect and start evaluating and working on those fundamentals. You're always self-aware and that leads to self-introspection, which is the basic state to be in. 4, your ego never runs away. And this is what critical evaluation punctures the ego, which destroys relationship at work and at home. 6, you start going for bigger opportunities because you identify your strengths and weaknesses from within, and those are critical only which come after self-evaluation. Lastly, you learn to enjoy your failures and successes. And to me, that's the highest pinnacle as far as Maslow's hierarchy is concerned. Self-evaluation is equivalent to nirvana. So that's how self-evaluation benefits all of us. Critical self-evaluation success stories which Akash spoke about. Look at J.K. Rowling. Failure to a complete degree, but then turned out to be the biggest winner. Similarly, you had Bill Gates, Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Michael Jordan, and many, many more. Had these people listened to the evaluation of others and ignored self-evaluation, we would have missed out on their brilliance that the world has seen. Failures and perils of ignoring critical self-evaluation, Akash spoke about. Suicide rates highest in India. Why is this? Because the Indian cultural trait of elders telling the juniors what to do, how to do, when to do. Today, students are standing on their own and are being more successful in their vocational and career opportunities. We see adoption of critical self-evaluation purely for its benefits. In corporates, 360-degree appraisal system. At homes, children have actually started going out and doing vocations and subjects that they want to do. In relationships, they last longer because there is a heart and mind balance when you critically evaluate yourself. In conclusion, the final point is critical evaluation is the eye-opener, which leads to self-realization and the actual truth. Critical self-evaluation directs us to prepare for tomorrow from the past experiences. And therefore, winners are not who fail, but people who never quit. And therefore, we firmly believe critical self-evaluation is more effective than external evaluation. Thank you so much.